Good evening, everybody. This is Ellen Jampol. I'm the business librarian at the New Haven Free Public Library, and I'm honored tonight to present two people who you all know. One is Julia Gambel, our entrepreneur in residence, who's going to introduce our speaker for this evening, Randye Spina. Okay, Julia, take it away.
Thank you, and welcome everybody who's here with us both on Zoom and on Facebook Live. Just one little admin thing. Yes, I am entrepreneur in residence until the end of June this year, and I just wanted to let you know what my office hours are. So it's Tuesdays, 11:30 a.m. to 1:30 p.m., Thursdays from 6 p.m. until 8 p.m., and then Fridays from 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. So if you go to the New Haven Free Public Library website, look for EIR/CIR, and my Calendly link is there. So we're going to get right to it. So I'm going to introduce Randye. So some of you may know Randye Spina because she has been my guest on Digital Media Sync. I don't know how many times. We've worked together on projects. She is a dear friend. And I'm just going to get right to her bio as well. So Randye is a native New Yorker, has a BS in marketing from Peace University and an MBA from the University of Dallas. She is the founder and managing director of Marketing Automation LLC. Congratulations, this is new. A marketing consultancy in Fairfield specializing in working with mission-driven social enterprises, which is not new. Prior to this, she led Affordable Marketing Solutions, a small business marketing agency, for 13 years. She is also on the board of directors of Arts Alliance of Stratford. So shout out to all those folks who may be watching, serving as their marketing director. In a previous life, she was VP of marketing and new product development at a financial services company and was the first general manager of startup co-branded credit card division of a global travel company. She is also the author of a small business marketing book, writer, a cat mom, and award-winning adjunct professor, marketing and communications. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you both so much for having me, and the team who has answered my millions of questions this past week. I really appreciate the support. So I am going to dig in, and I just want to let everyone know that in the chat, I have uploaded a PDF. So if you're interested, and then I can also, you guys can upload it to Facebook as well if you like. So here we go. Okay. All right. So we are doing a 3-part workshop. So obviously tonight is Introduction to the B Corp movement. Next week is how to become a B Corp. And I'm going to have a co-speaker that evening with me, also next Wednesday night from 6 to 7. And her name is Jennifer Gorin, and she is the managing director of Impact Growth Partners, which takes companies on the path to becoming a B Corp. And then on the third part of this workshop, the third session on March 16th, I'm going to be doing marketing best practices for B Corps and other social enterprises. So we hope you will join us for all 3 of those. So many of you may not know what a B Corp is, and so let's just start there. A B Corp is an organization that meets the highest standards and levels of integrity in how they operate as a business. A B Corp is run around social, environmental, and governance best practices, and I'm going to get into each one of those as we move through the presentation. Becoming a certified B Corp also means that you have legal accountability to balance profit and purpose, and that you balance what's called stakeholder capitalism. So stakeholder capitalism is, you're not just providing, return on investment for investors, but it's also the community, your workers, your customers, your suppliers, and the environment. To become a B Corp, again, Jennifer will go into a lot more detail about this next week, but just as an introduction, you must score at least 80 of 200 points on this assessment that is very long and involved, but worth it. And we'll find out why. You can be a public or a private corporation to become a B Corp. It's actually a global movement, and B Lab US the movement started in the US. Only 1 in 3 companies that apply will become certified. So it takes a bit. It takes a bit to go through the process. It's currently a very popular thing for businesses to do, and there's a bit of a backlog. So if you are interested in this, again, next week we can give you more information about that. But B Lab, their goal, their mission is to transform the global economy to benefit all people, communities, and the planet. And they are the certification agency. They are headquartered in Berwyn, Pennsylvania. And they certify companies that strive to achieve a higher level of purpose. So some are called purpose-driven, some call themselves mission-driven, but they serve a higher purpose than just a profit. It's interesting, there are currently just a little more than 4,600 certified B Corps in 78 countries and 155 industries. I did a version of this with Julia back in, I believe it was November, right?
Yeah.
And when I looked to update the slide with the numbers, there are 500 more as of this morning than there was in November. So in just, a couple of months, 500 more companies have become certified B Corps. And that was in 77 countries. Now there are 78 countries. So it is a global movement of companies that were created to address society's most pressing problems. And Lord knows we have enough of those. Mm-hmm. It all started in 2006 at Berkeley in California at the Haas School of Business, when several entrepreneurs got together and decided that there has to be a better way to do business. And if you think about the timing of that, that was 2006. That was even before, right, the Wall Street crash. I mean, so this has been on, the radar of entrepreneurs for quite a long time. And of course, there have always been nonprofits. There have always been social, mission-driven, purpose-driven organizations. But anybody could call themselves that. So this is a way for these organizations to have a structure and a streamlined process to become certified. And so we'll talk about the pieces of certification. So there is a 5-part framework that begins with workers. And I'm going to go through all of these, of course, but I want to point out that beginning with workers, most of businesses say the customer is always right. We exist for the customer is everything. And you'll see here that in their hierarchy, the customer is last, mm-hmm. Which when I first started really digging into all of this last year, kind of blew me away, but it makes sense. If you think about it, happy workers that are, good for the community, good for the environment, have what they call baked in governance, ultimately flows down the pipeline, and customers are happy. So they take a very different approach, which I think is so refreshing and so wonderful. And I will tell some stories and point some things out as we move along. But basically, these 5 areas of impact are sets of interdependencies. This is a systemic approach, where no piece of the organization is in its own silo with its own, priorities. Everybody is working both internally and externally, suppliers and things like that. There's no conflict. Everybody is on the same page. There is usually some operational considerations here that thread through the entire organization that keeps everyone working together, because that's what makes a B Corp last long. And there are enough now that some have gone through certification, more than once. So you recertify every 3 years. So you'll see workers again first, then comes community, environment, governance, and customers. So I'm going to go through each one of those with you. And okay, so first, workers. First thing is paying people a living wage. There are far too many people right now who are working several part-time jobs with no benefits. And as someone who's been adjuncting for the last 20 years, meaning I teach one class here, 2 classes there, for the last 20 years, I've had some combination of lots of classes at different schools. And because, federally and state taxes, you get you get hit in the pocket. And because everybody thinks that it's the only job that you have, there's a lot of fallout to having a lot of part-time jobs. One is, you're crazy. You have no work-life balance. You're probably, commuting all over the place. You're making a little bit here, a little bit there. You're trying to piece it together. Your schedules can change. Part-time workers typically have their schedules changed quite frequently. And then you have to balance, a home life and perhaps, family life. So paying people a living wage to reside in one job and have their full attention is very, very important in B Corp world. The other thing is professional development. Most B Corps have some kind of budget for professional development. So whether it's, reimbursement of tuition, if you're going to school, college or grad school, or you're getting, some licensure or something like that. So they believe in investing in their workers. It has been tracked for a long time now, and studies show that workers at B corporations have very long tenures. There's hardly any turnover. And that is just about the best compliment that any company can have, is that their employees want to stay with them. There's also financial transparency. In B Corps, any employee can walk into the CFO's office and say, show me the books. Everybody has the right to do that. And in fact, they want to know how well they're doing. Right. And it's so much more than just, oh, gee, now I can ask for a raise because I know we're doing well. Because, it's a lot more about like stability and believing in the mission and the whole concept of openness and accountability and transparency, not just with, if you're a public company and you're reporting through the Securities and Exchange Commission. This is where your books are open. Certainly to your employees. Some also open them to suppliers. And so financial transparency is a really big idea here, which is relatively new. The next is like remote options. Are you caring for like a child? Did you just have a baby in your family? Are you caring for someone, your parents or elder in some way? So offering remote options and equitable benefits. And one of the things that's really interesting here is, and I didn't know this until several months ago, there are many health insurance companies that will not cover certain medical, I'll say either procedures or needs of transgender people, LGBTQ issues, medical issues. There are health insurance companies that would not be qualified to be the insurance company for a B Corp. So it goes deep. I mean, I hope you can see that, the tentacles here, right? It goes really, really deep. Another thing that they believe in is that the boardroom should look exactly like the factory floor. So in terms of gender makeup, age, racial makeup, any kind of diversity, equity, and inclusion is not just top down, right? So this whole effort is, I call it like command and control is dead. That has gone away, much more open and diverse opinions. And that's really important because in the year 2025, it's estimated that 75% of the US workforce is going to be millennials. And they are the ones that are doing business with these companies, supporting these efforts, making conscious choices to work for them, to buy from them. So it's really important that a lot of companies get on board with this. Okay, the next is community. What is going on here? Hang on. Okay, don't touch. So the next is community. So I already mentioned diversity, equity, and inclusion, which is DEI. Another big factor here in community is the multiples of highest paid employee, typically the CEO, down to the lowest paid employee. So the Economic Policy Institute did a study in 2017, and they found that most Fortune 100 companies, the multiple can be up to 217 times higher for a CEO's annual salary than the lowest paid employee. B Corps make a commitment to their workforce and the community of people that they employ, that their ratio is going to be between 3-to-1 and 10-to-1 ratio, the average being 7-to-1. Okay, so that's another thing that I mean by stakeholder equity. Employees are considered stakeholders. It isn't just people who buy shares on Wall Street. So that is a very important principle behind B Corps. Another concept in community is called open hiring. And that means that anybody that walks through your door gets a job if you have one open. Now, that doesn't mean that someone can walk in the door and say, I want to be the CFO, if they're 16. But for the most part, it's almost completely open hiring. Whether or not you have a criminal record, whether or not you have a high school diploma or a college degree, whether or not your credit score is good or not. So that's become a movement within B Corp also. And there is a pioneer of all this. It actually began in the 1980s in the Bronx in New York. Yay, New York. At a company called Grayston Bakery. And they're in the Bronx. And the founder started this concept called open hiring, and it has really caught on. And the statistics prove out there is nothing that is hasn't been that they have not encountered during this open hiring. And they have all kinds of statistics and things. And there's YouTube videos you can watch. The CEO of Grayston is amazing. And I've seen him talk a number of times, and he talks about this issue quite a lot. The other thing is to encourage formal service days and volunteerism amongst your staff. So whether you say, 2 days a month, you get full pay, you don't have to use vacation time, personal days, and you can go do volunteer work in the community. And also that the company itself makes a commitment to support either nonprofits or charities in their community. And it doesn't have to be financial. I'm on the board of a nonprofit. We don't have an office, if a company has a boardroom that isn't being used at 6 p.m. or 7 p.m., like we have our meetings from 7 to 9 p.m., our board meetings, then, why not? Okay, with all the equipment that's there that most nonprofits can't afford, for example. Or, when it comes to storing art supplies and things that we use for events, it's in 2 boxes in somebody's basement, and somebody else has another box in their basement, and I have some stuff in the trunk of my car, so it doesn't have to be money. It could be time, it could be space. But the idea is that you are supporting your community. and also that you let your staff decide which ones to support. And it doesn't have to be just one, by the way. You know, a lot of companies do fundraising for United Way once a year and things like that. But that's just one. I mean, there are, you know, so many, right, that need your support. And then the other part of community is supporting underrepresented suppliers. So, for example, you know, women-owned company that is normally might not be in the mix, even as consideration to be a vendor for a Fortune 500 company. You know, like they grow like microgreens for restaurants, for example. And the restaurant is a B Corp, but they normally would go to some big farm. But there's a local, you know, microgreen vertical farm, or, you know, whatever form it takes. There's a new one in New Canaan now, and restaurants, and it was started by two women, and restaurants are using them for their supplies. It's local, it's cheaper, you're not putting trucks on the road. I mean, there's a lot of advantages to all of this. Also, here are some interesting facts. So Credit Suisse did a study, and they found that if you have just one female board member, you outperform boards that are 100% male, which is kind of interesting. Another statistic from McKinsey says that the more female senior and C-level executives that you have can drive up to a 47% increase on return on investment. This is tremendous. I mean, these numbers like support the movement, you know. The next one is environment. And this goes, you know, above and beyond recycling, obviously, and it addresses things that affect climate control. And so, you know, the tagline is people and planet before profits. I'd like to add animals in there, but I can't change their words, but I feel like that. People, planet, and animals come before profits. And, you know, a phrase I've heard being tossed around is there is no planet B. I mean, Mother Earth is all we have. And whenever I hear this, Julia, I think of the movie that years ago, I don't even remember now how many years ago, and I can never pronounce the name of it.
Koyaanisqatsi.
Okay, that's it. That movie just blew me away. First of all, maybe you can put the name in the chat.
I'm gonna put that in the chat, and I'll put it in
if
the
anybody's
Facebook
interested
too.
in it. There's also a movie that I've seen called Inside, which is it's an Icelandic movie that studies related things to the environment and how people interact with the environment and Mother Earth. That's what they call it, Mother Earth.
Mm-hmm.
So for example, you know, you can't be a B Corp airline. I mean, that's just impossible, right? You're using fuel, you know, you would think, but you can buy renewable energy credits. Putting solar on your roof is a good start for, you know, somebody who is a homeowner. There's a big manufacturing, I can't remember the name of it. They're somewhere, I believe in Middletown or somewhere around there in Connecticut here, and they were one of the first companies to put solar on top of their manufacturing facility. And so, you know, it can be done. The point is, you just have to want to do it, right? But it certainly can be done. Another thing that is part of this is product life cycle assessments. There's a concept in marketing that is, you know, it's called planned obsolescence. And that means that you purposefully change, let's say, the body shape of a car every few years, so people want to buy a new one. Or if you look at, you know, Pantone and their color of the year, and fashion follows that. So this year it's called Very Perry. It's a beautiful purple. And so everybody's wearing, you know, your hair is purple, I got purple in my hair.
Yeah.
You know, it's trend, right? So to keep up with the trend. The bad part, those are all like, okay, but here's where it gets really bad. And that ties into waste policies and hazardous waste policies, because let's say your iPhone, okay? Every year and a half, they come out with a new version. Everybody wants it. What happens to all the old ones? There are third world countries whose water and land is being poisoned. They can't even grow anything. They can't even grow crops anymore. They can't even be considered an agricultural environment. They can't fish because all the fish are being killed by all the poison. Every time you throw something in the ocean, it is, batteries, all kinds of nasty stuff leak. I read a horrible thing the other day, just in the Connecticut Post, that there is, I forget what year they said, but within like 15 years, there is going to be so much like antibiotic waste and medical waste in our oceans that we will not even be able to eat fish out of the ocean.
Yeah.
So
Scary.
that is, those two things are tied together. The more that you pump out there for consumerism, the more waste there is, some of which is obviously harmful to the planet, animals, and even people, right? But this has some implications. Everybody wants to do the right thing, but so here's an implication to consider. If you have an e-commerce business and people order, obviously it gets shipped, okay? If you're a B Corp, you are likely going to use a supplier that will only travel with a full truckload. This means it takes longer for goods to get to you.
Mm-hmm.
In our day and age, when people want it like tomorrow or in 5 minutes, there were so many funny memes. Hey, I ordered something online, and it's like they hit send and then they're like this, they're waiting for it. We've created such a crazy sense of immediate satisfaction. So some B Corp e-commerce companies, they just have a statement on their website. We only ship full truckloads. It may take 7 to 10 days to get to you, for example. Okay, as long as consumers know. But it affects consumer behavior. If you're so used to getting something delivered to you within 24 or 48 hours, it's a bit of education and change, for consumers as well. And also good for the environment is giving employees commuting options. Maybe you send a shuttle to the train station. It's in the shipping business, it's called the last mile. And the last mile is often why people drive when they could take the train, because it's a 2-mile walk. I used to live in downtown Stamford, and it was a mile walk to the train station. And I would walk it, but not everybody would, which means you're driving there, you're driving back. But some of the bigger companies who could afford it would have a shuttle that would just loop around and pick up employees coming up from Manhattan or down, from New Haven, to pick them up and take them to the office. So they don't have to drive, taking cars off the road, emissions and all of that. Also giving them remote options. I mean, what's better than that? I mean, we've all gotten used to that. And I don't think I could ever go somewhere full-time again outside of my home. And my cat would be really upset because she'd be alone all day, right? Who would feed her every 10 minutes?
And that goes back to, you were saying that everything interconnects, right? So working remotely also affects the worker experience, it affects the environment, and, it speaks to the governance. Yeah.
Yeah. And everybody that I know is at least, depending upon your home situation, of course. If you have little children, I understand, and schooling from home and working, I mean, I understand all that, but at least give people the option. And or instead of spending an hour and a half traveling each way, maybe they go to a remote, like a known co-working right, where it doesn't, right, you're not home, so you're getting the benefit of quiet time if that's what you need, but you're also not traveling necessarily, and you're not putting in unpaid time. I mean, if you commute and it takes you 2 to 3 hours a day, that's unpaid time, and that's also 15 hours a week. I mean, that's like putting in 2 additional full work days. So it has a lot, a lot of implications there. So, and the next one, let's talk about governance, which is the 4th one. And they call it baking everything into the cultural and legal DNA of your business. So everybody's on the same page, everybody. And I'm going to give you an example. This happened to me, like just the other day. I don't even remember what store. On the receipt, it said, and the cashier circles it, right, with a yellow highlighted pen and says, why don't you give us a review, tell us how we're doing, and you could win a $50 whatever. So you do that, but then you go to put in the receipt number and it's 20 zillion digits with no dashes. Okay, that's not having your IT people on the same team as your marketing people, and that would never be allowed in B Corp world. Okay, I mean, and by the time you get home, if the receipt was folded, it's half of those numbers are rubbed off. I mean, the paper, the ink. So in other words, all of the systems that you use and have to support your end goal. And that's part of baking it right into your organization's culture. Mm-hmm. Also, the concept of mission, vision, and values. Working with a client right now, I just rewrote a couple of pages on his website for him, and he is a B Corp. And instead of saying goal, like our goal is it's not a goal, it's your mission, right? So like using the right words. Again, as part of being on the board of this nonprofit, we went through a strategic planning process last year, and we came up with a very defined set of mission, vision, and value statements that everyone is accountable for. And although we're a nonprofit, but I've been through this process, and I will tell you it is not easy coming up with this. Everybody has a different idea of what it should be. And that's great because you need diverse opinions and you need everybody's thought process. But finalizing those is a task. That's all I'm going to say. It was quite the task, but we did it and we survived. The other thing is having an inclusive board of directors and or advisory board. So B Corps, if you are not a Fortune 100 company or, a public company, you'll have an advisory board. But either way, the diversity of what your board looks like, again, having, at least one female on a board or an advisory board is, has the implication of improving your ROI of what I say, 47% before.
Yeah.
So, and it isn't just, as a woman, I mean, I'm, happy about that. But it's also inclusive of different cultures, different languages, different religions, transgender, all of that. I mean, when the movement talks about inclusive, they are seriously, inclusive. And there are things that you can put into your governance that ensure that everyone is treated fairly and in the same way, so that no one, because of their status, is treated any better or worse than anyone else. Mm-hmm. Governance also comes into play with suppliers. So there are banks that are B Corps. There are web hosting companies that are B Corps. There is a link on my website, which I will share my resources page. You can run your, I forget what they call it, but how much energy your website uses. It's a free tool. So it's everything. I mean, it's truly baked in to everything that a company does. And then lastly, of course, is customers. So this list could have gotten very long, but in the interest of time, it is basically treating your customers as if you want to be treated. Written warranties, protection policies, whatever your data and privacy policies are, that are not written in legal language, but that, you know, anybody will understand how their information is being used. Also to encourage feedback, both positive and negative. You know, like I said before about the receipt.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like half-assing it, you know, it's like, yeah, we want your feedback, but we're going to make it as difficult as possible.
Yeah.
Because anybody who knows anything about consumer behavior knows that either only people who are really upset are usually the ones who do those things because they want to make it known that they're not happy, or people who love you. People in the middle aren't going to do that. And nobody's going to put up with this ridiculous, you know, 20-digit set of numbers that is not, you know, doesn't have dashes in it or whatever. That's another example of, you know, sort of purposefully not making it easy, right? So they're giving it lip service, but they don't actually mean it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a big problem. Another thing is a personal, those no reply emails. When you get an email from an organization and you hit reply, sometimes it says no reply, so you know not to do it, but sometimes it doesn't. Either way, I think that's a hideous way to treat human beings. If I'm a customer and you're emailing me, then if you don't want me to reply to you via email, then give me a phone number to call, or give me an email I can use, right? Give me a contact. And it's like, why would you not want to hear from your customers, right? Because you know they're not happy. That's why. You know, it's like, so they do that on purpose.
Well, can I use another example as well?
Absolutely.
So lately, what's been going on with these larger companies and organizations is when they call you to set an appointment or to check in on payment or something like that, it'll be an automated call.
Right.
And instead of having you, even now, it's like, gosh, I wish they would just have me hold for a second until a person comes on. They'll actually say, please call this person back at this number. So they get you on the line, you pick up the phone, and then you don't even get to talk to a person about whatever is happening at hand. And then
They
you have to go and call,
right.
and they make you take the extra step to call.
Right. And think about, if you think about, you know, when things like this happen, I say to myself, you know, we've been sending human beings to space to live on the International Space Station for 6 months at a time. Mm-hmm. Clearly, you can figure out how to allow me to press 0 on that call, that, right?
Right, and
to
get
connect
a human
me with someone. You can't tell me it's technology. It isn't technology. It's strategy, right? It's mindset. And this is where like there is no tolerance for that in B Corp world. I'm not saying they're perfect by any stretch of the imagination, especially new ones. You know, they are they're still kind of figuring it out in terms of implementation. And of course things will go wrong, but it's a matter of wanting to know what's wrong and then fixing it, and having the integrity to care enough about all of your stakeholders to do the right thing to the best of your ability, right? So you may not have enough money to fix something, but you know, if you do an email newsletter, you're like, thanks so much for letting us know this has been an issue. We're working on it and we hope to have this project completed by the end of the year. I mean, there's, you know, just tell your stakeholders what's going on. Again, that's a piece of transparency as well, you know. So here I thought I would share this fun graphic with everyone. And this is a list of just some, right? There are 4,600. It's just some of the famous B Corps. You'll see Patagonia is on here. They are the largest B Corp in the United States, but they are a privately held company. Fetzer is a winery. Cabot is a dairy farm and a food producer. Techstars is kind of interesting because weren't they the organization behind Startup Weekend?
They
Excellent.
are behind
Yeah.
the startup weekend. Yes.
Yep, there you go. Of course, Ben and Jerry's, as we
Mhm.
know, they were one of the first. Tom's of Maine, you know, I use some of their personal care
Yeah.
products.
And seventh generation. So these are
And-
all
right.
they've had this mission driven type of organization for a very, very long time.
Right.
Yeah.
And also on here, you'll see Gaia.
Mhm.
I'm a yoga person. So my yoga mat is Gaia. I have Gaia clothes, yoga clothes. That was interesting to learn that they are a B Corp. And there is someone here that, you know, Athleta, people know that, you know, their clothing store. There is someone here that I don't necessarily recognize, but they are all just representative. And if you go to bcorporation.net, you can find a list of all of them. So I'd like to address here some challenges and some advantages of being a B Corp. So certainly one of the challenges is cost. And anyone can go to bcorporation.net and they can take sort of like a high level assessment for free. And then depending upon the results of that assessment, and it asks a series of questions that go through all 5 of the impact framework pieces. And then you'll see, wow, like, is this possible for me? You know, or not. Like if you're an oil company or coal company, you know, clearly not, you know, at least not yet. And so cost is not a factor up front, but if you file pending, once you start your paperwork, it's only $150 to file. And then when you get certified at the end, in order to have your certification formalized, then it's a minimum of $1,000. Like somebody like me, work from home, $1,000. Patagonia was probably 50,000 or whatever, some larger amount. So it's scaled based on revenues. So it's not that prohibitive. The other thing is you have to be in business for at least a year to be on the certification path. Again, you can take the assessment, but not be yet ready to certify or not be eligible to certify yet. So you can sort of see, you know, where you stand. But a brand new business like me, I can't be a B Corp yet. I have to wait a year. But I'm starting the process to do that. The next challenge is operational considerations. Again, you know, getting your tech people to talk to your ink people and your paper people for, you know, a retail receipt would be, you know, one consideration. Another one would be like a no reply email. Another one would be, you know, making sure that everybody from the factory floor all the way up to, you know, the CEO's office operates at the same level of integrity for all stakeholders. And the operational considerations that come into play there is making sure that you have the systems in place to support your mission, vision, and values. And, you know, I know that there are 8 million SaaS companies right now providing, you know, more software than ever. And that's wonderful as long as all the departments and they interact. That's a big consideration because, again, it has to be baked into the DNA of the organization. And then lastly, you must recertify every 3 years. And, you know, so I used to work for American Express too. Public companies have to issue an annual report, you know, for the Securities and Exchange Commission and 10Ks and 10Qs and all kinds of investor stuff. There's similar reports called an impact report that B Corps have to do. And usually they're very pretty and designed and, you know, branded and all of that, just like an annual report would be. So, you know, some of these can be challenges, you know, for a small company, okay? The good news is, though, that more than ever in like investment, venture capital, you know, angels are looking to support and invest in this world of B Corp because the returns are there. and there is no compromise on their ability to make money investing in a company like that. So there is a lot of money out there and available from even big, big VC firms, some of the biggest names like BlackRock. They've invested in many B Corps because they see that it's worth it and they see the returns are there. So on the positive side, there are lots of advantages. I couldn't fit them all on the screen, but here are some of the big ones. I guess the biggest one is bragging rights, right? That you can say that you have a proven commitment to the business as a force for good model, which is becoming so important as consumers use these things to make purchase decisions. Obviously, you're solving economic and other injustices like inequities. We talked about a lot of this already with DEI, et cetera. There are so many things that need to be solved in our world that when last year, when I was formulating all this in my head, after I closed Affordable Marketing Solutions, the whole pandemic sort of made me activate the activist in me. And this speaks to me on such a personal level, and it's sort of baked into me, if you will. I want to be part of the solution. I don't want to be part of the problem. And thankfully, 4,600 other companies want to be part of this as well. When you become one, you join a global community who shares your values. I mean, there's just no better place to be than with, find your vibe, find your tribe. I definitely found my tribe with the people that I'm interacting with, the people I've met. I joined a consulting firm that works in this arena, and we're so all on the same page, definitely shared values. And then for branding, marketing, and communications, this is obviously a competitive advantage. And of course, I'll go into a lot more detail with this in the third session of this workshop series when it's all about marketing. But, that B Corp logo, go to the grocery store. It doesn't have to be just organic food, by the way, but go to the grocery store, go to any retail store, and you'll see the logo. People are attracted to it. People look for it. It is becoming a branding advantage, just like anything else used to be. It's next to your logo. It's one of these like proud, right? I'm proud to show this. It's on your packaging. It's on your website. It's on all your materials. It's on your social media. It's, hashtagged everywhere, B Corp, right? And the ability to attract and retain top talent, especially in this world of, the Great Resignation. B Corps are hiring. They're getting the best talent because they are attracting people who want to go on this same journey and share those values. And lastly is what are called B local chapters. There are a couple of people that I know and that I've met recently are starting the first Connecticut B local chapter, and it's out of Darien. It's a co-working space called Haven, which is a B Corp. And that's where they have their meetings. But there are B local chapters all over the US. I also want to quote a Goldman Sachs study here that being socially responsible is one of the highest indicators of somebody's purchase, whether or not they will make a purchase decision, and definitely garners long-term loyalty. And here's where you can learn more. If you scan this QR code, it will take you to the resources page on my website, where I have been over the last few months. It's a work in progress. Check back, because every week I'm adding something. I added a new one today called the Drawdown Project. And I have books and materials and organizations, and there's a whole lot of stuff on my website that you can find. And
Did it?
yeah, that's it. That's it. Yep. So in the chat is a download with an offer that also has the QR code on it, so you have it handy. And I want to say thank you to everyone at New Haven Public Library. Julia, thank you so much for inviting me. And Ellen, thank you for your help tonight. And I didn't get to meet your Jennifer. Maybe another time I will, but she was so helpful to me. So I want to say thank you to everyone. And here's how you can stay in touch with me. I would love to hear from you.
Okay, thank you very much, Randye. I don't see any questions in the chat, nor on Facebook. Let me check again. No.
Yeah, the great thing about this is that it is up because it's on Facebook Live. It's there.
Right.
So we'll keep an eye on it just in case there are other questions. But
And I'm
I'd like
happy
to
to answer.
Yeah, I would say once again that you know, even though I witnessed a lot of this, I saw a lot of this because we had it on Digital Media Sick as well. It's really like so heartening to see that this is something that beginning to have processes, beginning to have you know, benchmarks, that there's studies that, you know, are saying that, you know, not only is this kind of like a feel-good type of business situation, but it's super, super viable.
It is. You know, nothing great comes without some effort. So of course, some effort needs to be put into becoming certified. But you know, I can't imagine any organization saying, "Oh, we don't think it's worth it." There are so many benefits. I mean, I couldn't even list them all here. And on my website, you'll also see some books that I recommend. And if you really want to learn about this, it's called the B Corp handbook. That was my like real deep dive into this after I started connecting in this world. People say, hey, you should read this, you should see that, you should. So I decided I had to make a resources page and share all this, because with only 4,700 over the globe, I mean, it's a movement. And again, since October, you know, it has increased by 500 more companies, and there's currently a 10-month wait time. There's a bottleneck. So many companies that want to get certified. But, you know, I mean, there are like 4,700 companies just in New Haven. I mean, if you think about, you know, it's still kind of a drop in the bucket. And so, you know, I'm as a business as a force for good champion. I want to spread the word, spread the cheer. You know, the world is not dire. It's fixable. There's a zillion things that can be done. You know, the United Nations has a list of 17 global initiatives that everyone can take. That's resources also on my website. So, I mean, things are being done and people are joining the movement. And I invite you all to look into it and see if it's the right thing for you or not. And if it isn't, then that's fine. But if it is, I hope that you will investigate it further. And if I can be of any help to anyone, I would be happy to do that.
This is wonderful. And can you just take, I know we're kind of like at time, but can you just take a moment to reiterate what is going to happen in the next session that we have?
Sure. So next Wednesday evening, same time slot, 6 to 7 p.m. on Zoom. I am going to be I would say co-presenting, but it's really going to be 80-20 with me having the smaller piece with Jennifer Gorin. And her company is called Impact Growth Partners, and she's in Westport, Connecticut. It is a management consulting firm who works with companies that want to get certified. Some can do it on their own. Others don't have the time or resources to do it. And some go through the whole process and don't score 80 points. If you score 78,
Doesn't count.
Doesn't count, right? As an adjunct professor, the whole scoring thing I find interesting. But there's, she can work with companies. One of my clients right now, it's a B Corp. His score is 101, which is considered very high. And no one's going to get 200. It's, just kind of impossible, but it's aspirational, but it's doable. You can pass. And then on the third night, which is March 16th, that again, 7 to 8 p.m. on Wednesday evening, I'm going to be doing a session, only me, just on marketing for B Corps and other mission-driven organizations.
Which is different than, marketing in general. And what would be interesting, I think, there is what makes it easier, but also what makes it more difficult.
Yeah, so a lot of it is positioning, and a lot of it is content and how you speak about it. Are you telling your story? Are you getting your message across?
Yeah.
But in my experience with the clients that I've had so far, they are work from home people just like me. One has an office, the others don't. And so marketing just isn't their thing. One is, he's the only B Corp certified investment counselor in the state of Connecticut. So the funds that he puts your money into are all socially responsible investments and things like that. His story is really interesting. The other one, she is a work from home consultant that works with companies who do everything. She does everything from like consulting on packaging and operations and things like that. So that marketing isn't their thing.
Right.
And so in that sense, it's almost a parallel to affordable marketing solutions, where it was all mostly small businesses, but this is sort of a niche within small businesses.
Within that.
Right. And so I have found that all the materials, like I've just sort of, I've been able to repackage a lot of it. Like it's not, the process that I do isn't necessarily different, but in some cases it's just more specialized, using the right phrasing and things like that, telling your story.
Wonderful. Once again, thank you so much, Randye. Really appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you so much, Randye. It was great.
My pleasure.
Yes, our pleasure to have you. Thank you.
And you get to see me again next week.
I know, yay.
Good. Okay, folks, that's it. Thank you all for coming this evening, and have a good